Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. Today is episode 1 of AWS Zero to Hero series, and in this video I'm going to introduce you to the world of AWS and public cloud. So this is going to be a really interesting video as we are going to learn a lot of basics, foundational knowledge about public cloud and AWS. So please watch this video till the end. Before going on to the video and talking about the agenda, if you are a new subscriber or a new viewer of our channel, just to let you know that this is a 30 days of AWS series, and each day we'll be learning something new about AWS in the point of view of DevOps engineer. So by the end of this series, you will have good knowledge of AWS that you can implement in your project or you can showcase as a AWS DevOps engineer. Let's get started and see what is the agenda for today. So first of all, we will understand what is cloud, because whenever you learn any new platform, software, or any application, the first thing that you need to do is to understand what is it and the why aspect of it. So today we'll try to see what is cloud for someone who does not know. Then we will try to compare public cloud and private cloud. After that, I'll tell you what is the difference between, we will see why this public cloud is very popular. Like, these days, wherever you go, people talk about AWS, Azure, GCP. So why are these public cloud platforms very popular? Let's try to learn that. After that, we will see why AWS is popular amongst the other cloud platforms. So this entire series is about AWS, and I said that we will learn AWS, but why? Like, why can't you learn other cloud platforms over AWS? Why AWS is better than the other cloud platforms? So that is something that we will do. And after that, there is this topic where people recently are talking about moving back from public cloud to on-premises, where people are moving away from the cloud platforms. How true is it? Is it real? What is the advantage? What is the disadvantage? We'll also talk about it, and I'll share you some references. Finally, we'll create an AWS account and we will get started. From tomorrow's classes, we will use this same AWS account for learning the things that I'm talking about. Okay, now without wasting any time, again, let's try to see what is cloud. So keep your mind very free and try to understand this in a very simple way. You don't have to complicate it. So what is cloud? Basically, if you go back 20 years or 15 years, or even to the matter of fact 10 years for some organizations, what they used to do is basically they used to buy servers to deploy their applications. Similarly, you buy a laptop and you install software and you use that software, right? Same thing organizations used to do is they used to go to IBM, they used to go to HP or any other server providers, and they used to say that, hey, I want some 15, 20 servers. And they used to bring those servers back and create a data center. What is data center? A place where all the servers are stored and all the configurations are done for the servers. For example, you need to connect a lot of wires for the servers. You need to create your own network for the servers. You have to make sure servers are well equipped and there is a right temperature set for the servers and all of these things. So this thing is called as data center. So every organization, most organizations, they used to have their own data centers where they used to buy the servers from other IBM or any other companies, and they used to create this entire setup. But the problem with it is, let's say you bought 15 servers, and if you are not configuring anything like cloud or virtualization on top of those servers, what you can do simply is on each server, you will create one application and you will expose that application to your customer. But the main problem is that these servers are very costly and they come with huge configuration. Like one server, it can be of 100 GB RAM and 100 CPU. If you're just deploying one application, which is using 1 GB RAM and 1 CPU, all the other 99 CPU and 99 RAM is wasted, right? So to solve this problem, because this is very costly, if you are not solving this problem, then your company is wasting a lot of money. Tomorrow, if you have one more application, then you will buy one more server. So to solve this problem, there is a concept back then, which was introduced very newly back then, called virtualization. Okay, what is virtualization? Virtualization is a concept where you will solve the problem of wasting resources on a server. Like I told you, if you had one server with 100 GB and 100 CPU, instead of just deploying one application on that server, using virtualization, you will create virtual servers on that actual server. Okay, understand what is virtual server. You have actual server. On top of it, you are creating virtual layers or virtual servers. And each virtual server, you can deploy one application. So in that case, instead of buying 15 servers, you can just buy one server with required amount of configuration, and you can deploy your 15 applications. So this is a concept of virtualization. And if you want to understand this virtualization even in a deeper way, I'll share you the link where I have taught virtualization in a much more deep way, and I have explained what are the tools that you use for virtualization, how companies use virtualization and all. You can go back and watch the link with the link in the description. That was in our DevOps Zero to Hero series. But if you understood this, now what happens is that you use this concept of virtualization, and you can create a virtual machine in any part of the world, and you can share with other people. For example, if your organization is in US and India, what you can do is, if I request, like I'm a developer and I'm requesting you 5 virtual machines or 5 servers for deploying my applications, as a DevOps engineer or system administrators, you can create 5 virtual machines and you can share the IP addresses with me. And I don't know where exactly these servers are, but I'll continue to use those servers. So that's why this concept is called as cloud, where it is a cloud. They are interconnected and you don't know where actually those resources are, but you're still using it, right? Your organization might be in US, Europe, it can be in India and different places. But when you are requesting for a server, you are getting the server. uh, Probably you can choose where you want the server from, but again, you can directly say that I want a server and someone is giving you a server. So that's why this concept is called as cloud. And who was managing this entire thing? System administrators. Okay, and because you do this entirely within your organization, this concept is called as private cloud. Okay, so what is this concept called? Private cloud, because this is private to your organization. Like tomorrow, no one else from other organizations can request you this instance and you will not give them the instance. So it is within your organization, within the boundaries of your organization. That's why you call it as private cloud. So what people like Amazon, Microsoft, what they have seen is they saw an opportunity here. What opportunity did they see? Is, let's say you are a startup. For a startup to do all of these things, they need a data center, they need an employee, they need people managing the data centers, all the equipment for the data center, temperature control systems. So for a startup to get all of these things, it's very difficult. And even for mid-scale organizations or large-scale organizations, eventually this setup was going very high, right? So initially you have 15 servers, then 20, then 200, 2000. To maintain all of these 2000 servers, you need a separate team, and this separate team should be very proficient. They have to be very careful. They have to continuously upgrade these servers and a lot of other things. So AWS saw an opportunity. That is, Amazon saw an opportunity. Microsoft saw an opportunity. Google saw an opportunity. And what they said is, okay, don't bother about all of these things. What we will do for you is we will buy the servers. We will create this infrastructure in through multiple places in the world. And whenever you request anybody in the world, if they request for an EC2 instance, any company, if they request for an EC2 instance, if you have account with us, we will give you an EC2 instance. EC2 instance is basically a server. You can call it as a virtual machine, my bad. So anywhere in the world, if you request for a virtual machine, you can also say, I want virtual machine in US, I want virtual machine in India. We will give you virtual machine, but you don't know where exactly that virtual machine is. And you don't have to bother. So this concept is called public cloud. Now, why is this called public cloud? Because anybody in the world, anyone who has account with AWS, anybody who has account with Azure, anybody who has account with GCP, irrespective of organization, they can create instances, right? So that's why it's called public cloud. So the difference between public cloud and private cloud is, if it is a private cloud, it's you and your organization who is maintaining and managing that entire cloud platform. Whereas if you talk about public cloud, it is cloud providers like Amazon, Microsoft, Google. They are managing the entire data centers. They are managing that entire ecosystem, and you can request resources from them. So who has the complete control? You have the complete control, but they are the ones who are creating that resources for you, right? So this is the difference between public and private cloud. Now you might say that, hey, if I am creating a resource in public cloud, then AWS has the data center, AWS has all my information, so it is less secure. And tomorrow AWS might share this instance, or they can create instance besides this instance for another organization, and there can be one security breach. So don't worry, we will learn this concept in the other classes, where you can create virtual private clouds inside the public cloud. So at this point of time, this might sound very difficult or complicated, but it's not that complicated when we deep dive into it. So for now, just understand, there is public cloud and there is private cloud. Private cloud is if your organization is managing and maintaining the cloud platform. Uh, there are many companies who do it even today. Like what they do is, if there is a banking sector company, or if there is any sensitive information company where they don't want to public cloud, they don't want to go to public cloud, what they do is they buy the servers, they create their own data center, they use platforms like OpenStack, they use platforms like VMware, Zen, and they create this private cloud setup. Whereas startups, mid-scale organizations, it's very easy for them to onboard onto a public cloud platform. They don't have to think about anything, just pay the money and use it. So that's why they are called as pay as you go services. Now, why public cloud is so popular? So there are two main reasons. Everybody keeps thinking about the cost, but there are two main reasons why public cloud is so popular. So one is cost, obviously, but that's not the first point. The main concern of people moving towards the public cloud is, like I explained 2 minutes back. The main concern is that people move to cloud because they want to get rid of this entire maintenance overhead. Like I told you, if I am a startup and if I go sit there and create this entire data center, servers, network configuration, and every day I have to see if my servers are working fine or not, if I have to patch something, if there is any security issue, then for a startup with 50 people, 100 people, if they have to maintain this data center, for that data center itself, they might need 10 to 15 people, or 2 to 3 people, 5 people, which is an overhead for the startup, right? Or even for mid-scale companies, this is an overhead because you need dedicated people for this system. Not everybody knows about this thing, and 24/7 you have to take care of this data center. You have to ensure that there is no power loss. You have to ensure that your servers are always protected from any kind of hacks, or from any hackers. So to solve all of these things, and because this is very complicated for startups and mid-scale companies, it is very easy to just go on a public cloud platform, create an account with it, and just tell all the members of the organization that, hey, you can use this public cloud. I've created an account for you, and you can start creating resources. So that's very, very simple to onboard on a public cloud platform. That's why public cloud is very popular. And initially, AWS started with very less resources. Like they have started with 20 to 30 resources. That is, in AWS terms, it is called services. What are services? Like initially, AWS started with this virtual machine concept. Then they said, hey, we can also give you server storage. In terms of storage, they'll give you some hardware. Like if you want 500 GB, okay, take this 500 GB, just hard disk, that's it. And then they said we can provide you volumes. Then they said that we can provide you some database related services. And today AWS has more than 200 services. Okay, but initially they started with less number of services. For example, the most popular one recent times, you can talk about Kubernetes service. Now what AWS said is, hey, creating Kubernetes setup is very complicated. So all that you need to do is come to us and say, hey, I want a Kubernetes cluster with 5 nodes, 3 nodes, 10 nodes, and we'll give you a Kubernetes cluster. Similarly, AWS is looking and growing in this same space. Whenever they see that any service is going popular in the market, or any product that is going popular in the market, they just create a service out of it, and they provide this service solution to their users. Now, why is AWS popular, right? So every cloud platform is doing this. Like I told you, AWS, Azure, GCP, these are the three main cloud platforms. But apart from that, you have Oracle Cloud, you have DigitalOcean, and there are many other cloud platforms which are cloud providers. But why is AWS very popular? The first thing is that AWS is very popular because AWS has that first time advantage, or the first mover advantage. AWS is the first comer in this market. They are the pioneers of cloud, where they have started this entire cloud concept. AWS is the one who looked into this opportunity. They saw that, hey, yeah, we can create something here, and they have successfully done it. So many companies, when they started with the cloud platforms, they have actually started with AWS. which is Amazon Web Services. So that's the reason why the name is also Amazon Web Services. Initially, it used to be restricted to very less number of services. Probably right now the name can be Amazon Services itself, because Amazon right now is into multiple things. They provide services not just related to web services, but they provide multiple other solutions, and in future they'll definitely expand as well. But okay, never mind. At this point of time, what I'm talking about is AWS is the one that initially started this entire concept, and they have that first time advantage that people started their cloud journey with AWS 10 years back or 12 years back. And once someone starts with AWS, and if they like it, then they keep moving with AWS. And that's the reason why, because they started first, they have the large market share as well. And when we talk about us, the people who are watching these videos, my videos, and if you want to learn cloud engineering, and if you want to get on a job, there are more chances that you will land up in a job if you learn AWS over other platforms, because many companies are using AWS over other platforms. So AWS has the large market share. Next is Azure, and next is GCP. So obviously, if many companies are using AWS, then many companies will ask or look for candidates who have knowledge on AWS. However, this cloud or the entire cloud engineering thing, if you know any cloud platform, the interviewers or people who are doing the interviews, they'll be very open to get people from other cloud platforms as well, because the concept of cloud is more or less very same. It's only about the naming convention. It's the way of doing these things by AWS is different, and way of doing things by Microsoft is slightly different, and GCP is slightly different. User experience is different, and things are done slightly different way, but more or less the entire concept of cloud engineering is in the same ground. So if you want to learn one cloud platform, and if you ask me, I will suggest AWS, because AWS has the large market share. And if there is large market share, that means there are many job openings on AWS. So ideally, for people who want to start their cloud journey, AWS is the right platform. Now, this is question like, because you are learning cloud, you might have this question like, Abhishek, I read somewhere that people are moving away from cloud, and is it the right time to learn cloud platform? Because you are starting this series, so I want to know, before I want to watch these videos, is it the right time to start the cloud journey and watch this series? So one thing is, even I made a video on cloud repatriation. This term of moving back from cloud to on-premises. On-premises is nothing but using their own data centers and building the private cloud. So moving from public cloud to private cloud is called as cloud repatriation. So people initially started with private cloud, moved to public cloud, and some people are coming back to public cloud. Sorry, private cloud. So this is true, but the number of people or the percentage of users who are moving back from public cloud to private cloud is very, very less. It's 1% to 2%, or even less than that. People are moving away from public cloud and starting their own journey of private cloud one more time. And the reason for it is multiple things. One is security. One is they were not ideally getting any cost optimization, and they were not getting a real advantage of moving towards public cloud. So then they have decided that, okay, let's move back to private cloud, and I've done a complete video on this. You can go and check my video on cloud repatriation, where I've discussed this thing in very detail. But for now, you don't have to bother about it, because out of 100 percentage, it's only 1% or 2% of people who are moving from cloud platform back to on premises. And this number, the people who onboard onto public cloud, will keep on growing, because startups and mid-scale people cannot afford data centers. Not in just, not in terms of money, but it is also in terms of the entire setup and maintenance. So if someone want to build their own data center, money is one thing, and the maintenance is the other thing, which are two major factors for them to move towards the public cloud. So saying all of these things, because from tomorrow we have to learn things on AWS, we will do things live on AWS. So the first thing that we need to do is to create an account on AWS, right? So let's get started and create an account on AWS, which we will use for the entire series. Okay, so the first thing that we will do is, let me stop sharing here and share the other screen. go to your favorite browser. You can use any browser, and all that you need to do is search for AWS sign in, right? So you'll find this page called Amazon Web Services sign in. Let me increase the font size. Yeah, I hope you can see this. So here, what you need to do is you need to provide your email address. So you can use the same email address or use a different one. Like you can create a new email address as well. So for the purpose of video, I just created a new email address so that I can demonstrate it. So this is a new email address, and just keep this as a root user. You will understand what is root user, what is IAM user in the future. But when you create a new account, don't change anything. Just provide the email address. Click on the next button. Oh, sorry. Create new AWS account. My bad. So click on the create new AWS account here. And all that you need to do is provide this root user email address, the email address that you have just created, or if you have one, you can use the same one, and provide any AWS account name. Don't worry, you can change this account name in the future. Let me just say the account name as Abhishek, and you have to do this verify email address or sign in to an existing AWS account. Because you don't have existing AWS account, just click on verify email address. Okay, and you will get a verification code to this email address that you have just created. So let me go to that email address and put the verification code. So you can see you will get an email like this, AWS email verification. So click on this one, just copy the verification code and put it here. Click on verify button. So once you do this, then you have verified. Now you can create a password for your AWS account. So yeah, just make sure that the password is very, like create a very strong password. So let me put some password here. So continue, step 1 out of 5. So yeah, so I did not provide a strong password, so it is asking me to change the password. So what I'll do is I'll create a slightly strong password this time. Done. So step 1 out of 5. Now the second question is, do you want to create this AWS account for the business purpose or personal learning purpose? So click on the personal, where you are learning or using this AWS account for doing some personal projects. Then provide your full name. So in my case, I'll put it as this one, and then put your phone number. Search for India and put your phone number. Then select the region. So that will be India, of course. If you are in the US, then change these details accordingly and provide your address. So you don't have to put the exact address. This is just for the purpose of billing. So you can provide the details of it, but it does not have to be 100% accurate. So just put the details. For example, I can just say this one here. So accept, agree to the terms and conditions, and there is something, the phone number you provided is not valid. Let me do this. So AWS does a very basic validation where they'll see if the phone number is of 10 digits and if you have put address, the postal code or not. So I have provided the information. This is the important page where you have to give AWS a credit card or a debit card. And not all credit cards and debit cards will work. And there are some workarounds, but I will not prefer them. Like, you can use virtual debit cards and virtual credit cards. Like people have seen using some virtual credit cards. They go to some portals and get a virtual debit card. But I would not suggest that. If you don't have one, then try to borrow it from someone. If you are using it in a right way, then you will not be charged for the account. And one more thing, very important thing to understand is, let's say you are charged, AWS will not automatically debit the balance from this account. Let's say you are charged 100 rupees in Indian currency. So AWS will not charge or will not directly take 100 rupees from this debit card or credit card that you have provided. This is just for the purpose of validation, so that not everyone spams AWS. Like, people don't create hundreds of accounts with AWS, and you are a legit user. So that's why AWS asks you for a payment details where you put all your credit card, debit card information. And once you put this information, AWS will deduct one or two in your currency. Like if you are in the US, I think AWS will deduct $1. If you are in India, then I think it will deduct 2 rupees in Indian currency. Similarly, in whichever region you are, AWS will deduct and you will get this money back. So once your transaction is verified, and if AWS identifies that you are the right person, then you also get it back eventually. But this entire thing is required to make sure that you are a valid person. So you need to provide debit or credit card details. If you don't have, take it from someone else, or there are other ways like using virtual debit cards or virtual credit cards. But personally, I don't know how safe they are. So that's why I'm not recommending it to anyone, and I don't want to show that virtual way of doing it as well. And tomorrow, if that does not work or AWS change their way of these things, then you might come back and say that this is not working. So better go with a proper debit card and a debit card or a credit card that AWS accepts. So here you can put the information. So for the purpose of security, I'm not putting all of these details. Just put your contact details and do you have a valid PAN or not. If you click on yes, then it will ask for your PAN card details. Just the name, enter the details of your PAN, and AWS will keep this for safe, but they require this information for the tax settings. So once you are done with this, then click on verify and complete, and after that you will be asked very basic questions, and all this step 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5, and 5 out of 5 will be done, and you will have your own AWS account. So after this, all the settings are very simple. Because I don't want to put the details one more time. I am already using it for different AWS accounts. I have 2 to 3 AWS accounts already. So I'm not putting this information here, but after this, once you provide valid details, AWS does a very simple transaction. And if your transaction is done, you are just with step 4 and 5, which are very straightforward, and you will have your AWS account. Like I told you, once you have this AWS account, we will use the same AWS account for the next 30 days, and we will learn AWS using this account. One more time, if you are using AWS free resources within the limit that AWS has provided, you will not be charged directly. And even if you are charged, AWS will not deduct money directly from this accounts that you are account details that you are providing here. So you have to pay AWS, or else your account will be suspended. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and going ahead, the videos will be more interesting. Day 2, day 3, day 4, till day 30, we'll keep learning new things on AWS. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. Let's all meet in the next video. Take care. Bye.